everyone. Welcome back to Deep Images. We are continuing our series on crime films. Joining me for this session are co-host C.F. Roberts and panelists Rhiannon Clark, Briggy Williams, and Justin Cotton, or as we're sometimes called behind the scenes, the New Friday Five. It's like we're a band or something. Anyway, enjoy. Thank you for watching. But I want to cover a movie real quick before we wrap with Chuck. So I covered Branded. I'm covering right even as we speak. I'm covering this Branded to Kill, 1967, by I can't pronounce his first name
Happening.
correctly. I'm getting better at Japanese. I'm gonna try to pronounce it in a Japanese way, but it sounds like Seijun Suzuki. But most people call him Seijun Suzuki, so we'll just call him Suzuki for now. It's kind of like Kurosawa. We cannot You cannot cure us Americans of our drawl of syllables, extra syllables. So Stephen Suzuki made a ton of movies. He was a guy who had an aimless life. He fought briefly in World War II for the Imperial Navy. He wasn't real happy about it. Um, and then he kind of became a layabout. So he somehow he just bungled into being a assistant director on movie sets at this studio, Shochiku. And he stayed there for a number of years. And he thought Shochiku was pretty straight laced. So he heard Nikatsu, which had stopped making movies during World War II, had reopened. That's the oldest Japanese movie studio in history. I think it started like 19 maybe 10 ish, and Nikatsu is had its ups and downs. I mean, it's done a lot of prestige movies. For people like cult movie fans, it's mainly known for making a lot of lurid and underground movies and the whole Roman porno genre, or Pinky Iga, which means pink films, which are basically like uh, they're like sex films, but with a noir touch. They're kind of like in America they called roughies, where they're kind of like sexploitation, but I don't want to say there's a lot of rape, but there's definitely some manhandling going on and some rough behavior on the part of the males. And they're mostly criminals, and so that became a popular genre in Japan. And there's a ton of them. I've only seen a handful. Some I've seen with no subtitles because you just can't get them with subtitles yet. Um, but a predecessor to that era in Nikatsu was when Seiji Suzuki came back, and he went there in the 60s. And over a period of about 4 or 5 years, he made, becoming a director, he made 39 movies. So he did in every
Wow.
genre. This is within, I think, 6 or 7 years. So he's one of the most prolific directors. Uh, Most Japanese studio directors of the 20th century were far more prolific than any Western studio can fathom. Um, but it was like an assembly line process. They ground him out, and that's kind of what happened to Suzuki. He got tired of these formulaic Yakuza plots, or Yakuza, some people call it. I guess that's what Americans call it. The Yakuza plots were like the Yakuza, so they were the mafia in Japan. So um, please interrupt me if you don't agree with any of this, or you're not sure, or you want to add anything. So, but so there were a ton of these movies. I personally love Yakuza movies from that, Yakuza movies. Something I'm calling Yakuza movies from the 60s, mostly black and white, mostly screen, mostly beautiful, like neo noir. Some of the most moody crime films ever made, well crafted. Japanese films at their height were far more well crafted. They were low budget, were far more well crafted than American or British low budget films, and you could stack them side by side. Same with Italians. Italian stuff was not as well crafted as the Japanese, but it was much more well crafted than America. So like you compare the slashers or the whatevers of the Texas Chainsaw era of horror. I'm not talking about that one movie. I think that movie is an artistic, flawless masterpiece. But things that came in its wake in America were cheap and ugly, even though they might have had great redeeming qualities. Like Massacre at Central High was an early slasher.
Ah,
It's kind of ugly to look
okay.
at, but it's really fun to watch.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
but compare it to a Giallo, and cinematic value, it's like no nutrition by comparison. Like
Yeah.
you're getting a quick Twinkie at a Massacre at Central High, and then you're getting the Pajama Girl case, and you're having like a spicy meal with tostillas and all that stuff. So I really feel like Japanese is like next level. And Suzuki is one of the people that helped that. Though at the time he was demonized by the studio head Ryosaku. Hoshi or Hori, sorry. And Hori was an asshole. He was like all business. You got to churn out all these movies in a tiny amount of time. Get with it, kids. This is what the public wants to see. You know, even though Nikatsu was the tiny studio compared to Hollywood, even back then, they had that regimented kind of way. But that's one reason they were so well crafted. It's because they kind of had it down to a science. So Suzuki had those chops, but he wanted to play with the script. So he started making more playful scripts, more subtext, more political, more sexual, more all kinds of different subtext in his movies. And he played with all these tropes of the crime movie, of the gangster movie. He did a few samurai and war movies, and everyone had to do a samurai movie at that time. It's like in Italy in the 70s, everybody had to make at least one spaghetti western or one giallo. In Japan, everybody has to make at least one samurai movie. I can't think of any Japanese director who hasn't made at least one samurai movie. I mean, it would be unthinkable almost. But even Shinya Tsukamoto made a samurai movie. So Suzuki was a really incredible guy. I mean, he was like, fuck this. He got a script. They didn't like it. And he's like, I'm just going to mess around with this. And so basically, he just shot all this footage. He shot it really tight, like a small, like 2-to-1 ratio or whatever. So he didn't have much excess fat. And then he edited himself, even though he gave the editor credit. He actually edited himself. And he did it in one night, the whole movie. And it came out the next day. He barely finished it. He literally edited it the night before it premiered in Japan. And when it premiered, Hori, the studio head, had a apoplectic paroxysm. He was like, "This is trash. This is garbage. It's incomprehensible. I don't want our name associated with this crap." And he was like, "Suzuki needs to stop." He wrote a memo and he said all this. It's incomprehensible. It's garbage. Suzuki needs to never direct ever again. He needs to be blacklisted.
It must be brilliant. It must be brilliant.
Well, time has proven Suzuki the champion. Nobody knows who Hori is. I can't even remember his name right, and nobody cares about this pencil pusher. But Suzuki's
it triggered him.
Suzuki's
influence. If it triggered him that much, yeah.
Yes, I mean this movie I'm about to try to talk about was a huge influence on John Woo, on Jim Jarmusch, on Quentin Tarantino, on all these kind of cats who run in Park Chan-wook. All of them cite it as a key film and their sensibility. It's kind of, to me, it is not part of the Japanese New Wave, which came a little later, which was like Oshima and Imamura and those guys. And we talked about Imamura earlier. I think it was before we were shooting with Chris. But before that, because of the status of this movie, it became hailed as kind of to the Japanese New Wave, like Breathless was to the French New Wave. It's like the kind of emblematic film, like, okay, we're going to just change the whole grammar of how we make these movies. Now, I don't think Suzuki was as radical as Godard was, but for Japan, yeah, he was the most radical filmmaker as far as form and structure, like just the way he shot things. So he has all these non sequitur shots. He has flash forwards, flashbacks. He has weird fades. He has animated sequences. All of this stuff is now in the post-Tarantino world de rigueur for crime movies. But this was Japan in 1967. Tarantino was 6 years old. I wasn't quite born when this movie was made. And so main character is Hanada. Hanada is played by Joe Shishido. He's a character. He was disappointed that he wasn't rising as an actor, and Nikatsu was pushing him. That's why they put him in this movie, even though they had doubts about it. And he said, I can't be a leading man because my face is too gaunt. Now, of course, obviously, many years have gone by and we've had Clint Eastwood, et cetera, prove that is actually considered a handsome, heroic face type. But he was like, no, I need to have chubby cheeks, and he didn't use the word chubby. And so he got these silicone implants in his cheeks. I'm not joking. And he looked like a blowfish. But it became his trademark. And seriously, as soon as he did that, more people started going to see his movies. I don't know if they were like,
he just knew
concerned.
It.
Are you okay, Joe? What the hell is going on? Is a pustule going to break on your face? What the fuck? And he looked like a chipmunk, but man, he got super rich being a chipmunk. And there's a modern interview with him on the Blu-ray I have. Well, modern for 12 years ago. and he's an elderly man. He's got that great sense of humor. And he's funny about all that stuff. And you know what he's got now? He's got a gaunt face and he has 2 scars. So after he semi-retired from acting, he had them taken out. But it looked cool. The scars look really cool.
Nice, yeah.
So in this movie, Haneda is the number 3 killer. The killers are ranked under the system of hitmen. And this is a black and white movie, by the way. And so Haneda's number 3, and it's not really a big deal to him, but it seems like people around him are really hung up on climbing the ladder to ascend to number 1 killer status. So it has a few sequences. Like the first sequence, him and a friend who used to be a hitman, who's now a taxi driver, who picks up him and his wife from the airport. Hana's married, and she's a nymphomaniac, and he gets sexually aroused by sniffing boiling rice. And so when he does that, that's when he runs upstairs and gets to his wife, fever. So that was another eccentricity that was added as the movie was being filmed. They wanted to have a gimmick, and then they're like, why not rice? And then they did product placement to help pay for the movie, and they sent him one of those giant cookers, which those were cutting edge in 1967. And so he's like got this cooker around him. And there's a company a few years ago, I haven't seen photographic evidence, but I have been told on the internet, there's a company a few years ago that made a very expensive Japanese action figure of Haneda with the thing of rice. A little tiny little thing of cooker of rice. So anyway, he carries a Luger too, a very distinctive gun. And so him and this taxi driver buddy, they're like, let's have a job. I'm getting a job from this guy named his name's not Nobuhara. I'm not gonna say it right, but he's kind of like the connection, all these people, the gangster everybody's connected with. And unfortunately, he's also fucking Haneda's horny wife. Which I don't think he ever finds out. It's just one of those things that it happens, and this movie has no conventional logic to it, and that's why I love it. And so they go on this hit together, and they have to ferry this client across this, from one town to another, and it's a setup, and they get shot by these people. The gunshot scenes are great. The guns are very loud. I mean, you're sitting there like, boom! I mean, they're super loud in stereo. And they all sound really real, like Suzuki's like blasting guns right next to the mic. I don't know. There probably wasn't even a gun for the effect. But it was really harsh, and the killings are just like snap, and they're funny, kind of, they're slapstick. Like, they'll shoot people, and he didn't have cranes, I don't think, but somehow he did crane-like shots where he's, there's a hill, a slope, and a sniper shooting at you. So he just shoots the sniper. So you see the long shot of this little guy. Suzuki's way back here filming, and he like falls. He's like, oh, he looks like a dummy, but it's really a guy. And I guess it's a stunt man with a foam at the bottom of this giant cliff. And cool. I'm assuming they use this foam at the bottom. And so it's really, so it becomes like farcical. A lot of the body language is like slapstick. It kind of reminds me of anime, which I think was probably an influence on it, manga or anime, which were huge even in 1967 and in Japan. And so he gets through this deal. He ferries the client to where he needs to go, and the client ends up helping him kill 2 of the people trying to kill them. His friend, the taxi driver, gets drunk and attacks one of the assassins, and they kill each other. Also a strange comical pantomime moment. It's weird face acting. I don't know what it looked like, an anime, like Goofy, done on purpose, Goofy. And the guy that he kills is Ko. He's the number 4 killer. So they determine that number 2 killer, Sakura, has ordered all this stakeout. So he keeps shooting at them, and Haneda just runs up to it with a gas tank. I forgot where he got the gas tank. It's something in his arsenal. And he goes up to the ledge, and the guy's shooting, and he knocks the tank out of his hand. It doesn't ignite. He rolls down a hill, he grabs it, he tries again, and he pushes it into the little aperture where the guys hold up, and then he like shoots into it, and the whole thing goes on fire. And then another comical scene, the guy runs out. Now this, of course, was pre-CGI, so this is a real stuntman bathed in flame, wearing a suit, and his face is all made, obviously it's to protect from the flame, it's all made up to look like he's been scarred, but it's from a distance too. All this detail, and it's a distance shot where they could have just been slack about it, but he definitely uses the distance. And it's over cranked, so he runs out real fast. And of course, the guy's really, really running because he's really on fire. And wow. Then the client shoots him. So Hanana's like, well, okay, we got you here, buddy. You took care of business for me. We took care of number 2 and number 4 killer. So they go back to Nabahara or whatever. He gets another order. He starts giving him some hits. He takes them out, and then he's summoned by the femme fatale, Misako, and Misako is played by Anu Mari. Anu Mari, I think, is one of the most stunning human female creatures that's ever been born. She's still alive. I don't know what she looks like now. She's born in 1948. So she is, she won the genetic lottery. Her mother was Japanese. Her father was Indian, like from India.
Wow.
She's super exotic, just pure sex. Just like incredibly dark. And
yeah.
The black and white noir movie, so they really frame her like the femme fatale, and her features are very, her nose is more like an Indian woman. It's more angular than a Japanese nose, and that it's one of those things that if her whole face didn't work, it would make her look kind of weird. But because it does makes it work somehow, her features just are like the symphony that barely plays together, but it makes a nice music. And so she's like, I want you to kill this guy for me. And of course he wants to have sex with her. He's just immediately spellbound. So he goes and he demands that she make rice. His aphrodisiac. And her house is covered with dead butterflies, and they're real dead butterflies that Suzuki and his crew collected meticulously. Most of the time shooting the movie was spent making sure they were all stuck on the wall and didn't all crumble. That was like the most complicated effect they did. And it is complicated if you really think about it, because those things would crumble like that. So she's got hundreds of them. This isn't CGI either. This is like hundreds of dead butterflies, real dead butterflies, stuck all along her wall. And she's kind of like the ultimate like proto goth chick. She's like, yeah, I just want to die. I just want to die. Just death is so great. I'm just so tired of living. And she's got like a dead bird that she found that she like hangs from a kitchen thing. And again, this is Asia 1967, so these are real dead creatures. Now they probably killed the bird. I don't know if they killed the butterflies. They could have just got them from collectors, because I can see them killing hundreds and hundreds of butterflies. That would take a lot of time. But so her whole thing is death. She's like the ultimate death rock chick, and she's one of those chicks that in some circles of cinema is iconic as hell right now, in certain countries, certain places. And that's where you get guys like Tarantino who are a big fan, because she kind of has this iconic, kind of like Pam Grier had a very iconic of her time, as a woman, like a devastatingly beautiful woman of color. And so Misako doesn't really do much, though. She like shadows him on this hit, and then a butterfly lands on his sniper rifle, and he kills the person, a bystander, instead of the target. So it wasn't like the last minute, oh no, I hesitated, I don't want to be a hitman. It's more like, oops, I made a mistake. How did I make a mistake? And they kind of imply that one reason he's making a mistake is because he's just besotted with this woman. He's trying too hard to be perfect, to please her. And so yeah, he shoots the wrong person, and it becomes and then she pops up out of nowhere. She's been shadowing him. She shoots them, and then they have this conversation, and they're like both way far in frame from each other. Like, here's the viewer, and there's like a big thing of stairs and a building. He's standing on this ledge of the building way over here, and then way back here, she's up these stairs, and they're having a conversation. I don't know how I guess they mic'd it afterwards. Direct. It wasn't direct sound, but it's hard to tell what's going on because it's black and white, and her dress has patterns, and everything has patterns, the steps. So it took me a minute. I'm like, it's like a magic eye picture. I was like, oh wait, there's
visually stunning.
Yeah, like there's Misako up on the stairs. That's where her voice is coming from. What the hell? Why is she way over there? Because they're trying to play it cool. Because this is like their life as gangsters or hitmen. Like, I don't know her. Oh, so yeah, blah blah blah. No one's gonna notice. And so from there, it just kind of spirals. He kills his wife. I can't remember if he finds out she fucked the boss, but he definitely does not like her behavior. She tries to kill him. That's one problem. So he does her in and burns the house down, and goes to Bisako's house because that's who he really wants to be with. And she just kind of alternates between leading him on or pretending to be warming to his advances in her own cold death rock way. Like, her way is like laying down. Like, she lays down like, okay, now you can fuck me. She doesn't really say anything seductive. She's just like, okay, And so then he's just like, then
She
then he
just
gets
lets it happen.
frustrated. Yeah, he's like, well, I can't do anything with this dead person. But so instead she tries to kill him a few times, and finally, she disappears out of the scene. So he gets this film. Here we go into the found footage realm here. He gets this film of her being tortured. Oh my God, it's like proto snuff. And you can tell it's superimposed through opticals in the camera. I mean, like they show her and she's perfectly fine, beautiful, serene. And there's this flamethrower and this flame, and she's totally naked too. That's another thing about this movie is it has a total constant flagrant nudity, except the pubic hair. They couldn't show that in Japan back then. And so yeah, this flame is supposed to be torturing her, but obviously the flame isn't really in the same shot with the actress. But she's like, "Oh, I'm dying." It's her dream come true. She's obsessed with death, and so he's freaking out. So he has the first predictable response in the movie, like, "I've got to save this girl," and so it's his first motivation that isn't like climbing the ladder. So he tries to save her, and he finds out that this client guy who they helped in the beginning, who ended up saving them, is actually number one. No one knows his name. The client is never given a name. So the character is never given a name except number one. So the whole scene's in the beginning, it's the actor, but nobody ever calls him by any kind of name. So then the end, toward the end, you see the actor again. And he's like, "I'm number one. I've been number one all along." And he's like, "And now we have to kill each other because you've killed everyone else. So we've killed number two. So you're gonna try to be number one. So I have to kill you first. This is the way it works." And
there can only be one.
There can only be one. And then this lunacy goes on for about 20 some minutes. It's like the night porter or something. They move into an apartment together and live together and are running out of food. I mean, it's like the night porter, except no sex, thank God. But they're just like, he's like, "I'm shadowing you. I'm watching you wherever you go. Let's link arms." They link arms to go to the toilet. I mean, there's tons of comedic, ridiculous shit in this movie. And finally, the guy disappears, and our man, he thinks he's free, sneaks off. Of course, first thing he does is go to a restaurant. He's got a lot of money. He's a hitman, like cash. He gets a big thing of rice, and it rejuvenates him right away. And so he keeps wanting. They never tell him what happened to Misako, and finally they go to this restaurant. The guy disappears. He gets back. He has the rice, and then he finds another film. And this film, if I'm correct, yeah, in this film, it's her again, but she's been tortured so much. And they don't show any wounds, but she's been tortured so much. She has bandages around her whole head, top of her head, bandages around her. One of her arms is in a sling. She's got a leg in one of those braces, plaster casters. I mean, she's like, they've broken her bones. I mean, she's just like hanging out their hideout. And he's like taunting him with this, like, "Look what we did to her now," And it's tastefully done. I mean, nowadays it would show everything up close. Let's watch as we cut her fingers off. But so the guy says, "Meet me at a gymnasium or you're a coward." And so he goes and stakes out this gymnasium late at night for like 6 or 7 hours. He brings food with him. He's like so depressed and nerve wracked by this time. He hasn't had any sleep. And the guy makes fun of him because he's like, "You should sleep with your eyes open. You had inadequate training as an assassin." And so this guy is like, Hanada's like, "Oh my God." He's like, so the time that he's supposed to be there passes. And Hanada's like, "Okay, he's a coward. He didn't show up. Hey. And of course the guy he goes into the ring of this boxing thing. And that's where they're at. And he kind of dares the guy to shoot him. And the guy starts shooting at him. And he does shoot him. You don't tell at first, but he shoots him here and maybe one other place. Not like the heart or something. But he does wound him. But while he's jumping around through these rings, he's shooting back. And so the number one killer, rises up. There he is. And he thinks he's won. And then, whoops, he's been shot too. He dies. And so Hanada's like tense. And he's like, "I'm number one. I'm number one." And he's jumping up and down. And then he hears the door and he's like thinking it's another killer. And he shoots. And he shoots his girl with all her braces and sling and everything. And she dies instantly. And so he's like, "I lost my cane. I'm getting too excited." And so, and he's like, "Oh fuck," and he's wounded. Now he's starting to bleed. He's like, "I'm number one." And then he like topples out of the ring. And this is extreme harsh chiaroscuro black and white contrast lighting, like ink blot on a virgin ivory paper. So the ring is like pure white. The surface is bouncy, and then everything around it is black. You just barely make out the sides that are gray. And yeah, so his fate is it death? Is it not? Well, Suzuki made a sequel many years later called Pistol Opera, and this was released by Media Blasters, and it's in color. And he deliberately shot it in the Academy ratio instead of the widescreen, because by now widescreen had become standard. He was most people who fought for it, because Branded to Kill is just gorgeous widescreen. So Pistol Opera he made like 20, I would say 2005 ish, something like that. I'm sorry, I'm blurry. And it's in color, and the number one killer is Hanada. But he tried to get his guy Joe with the bulgy cheeks to play the character, and last minute the producer said, "No, I want this other actor who's kind of hot right now in the same age." So it's a sequel, and he repeats some shots. His disciple, who's trying to rise to the ranks, is a woman, and she dresses kind of like an old school like samurai. It's set in the modern day, but Yakuza, gun and sword, that phrase, they use the ancient and the modern weapons to kill. And so that sequel was pretty good, but it's nowhere near in the league of this original, but it's fun. He's experimenting because what happened is then this movie came out, he was fired from the studio. The movie was banned by the studio itself that released it, banned it. And he was blackballed. And so he decided to sue. And so he sued, and all of a sudden, all these film buffs and other filmmakers and journalists and weird radical leftists he knew, they all like got in this class action suit with these massive public protests. And this went on for years. And finally, like 1970, after 3 years of this, he won the suit. He didn't get nearly as much money as he wanted, but he did get quite a lot of money. But nobody would hire him in films. The producer's edict worked, unfortunately. So there's a double-edged sword. He couldn't work in films again. He didn't make a film till 1977. He did make commercials, and that's how he made a living. But internationally, like in art house circles, of course, I had no idea. I was a little tiny kid. He became a legend. A lot of people had never seen Branded to Kill, but they're like, I got to see this movie where the guy broke all the rules of the studio, didn't give a fuck, and it got banned.
I
and
can't
he
wait
sued.
to watch it.
Yeah. And you'll see the archetypes, and he really he went on to do a bunch of other, he went on to have some like so-called prestige movie in the 80s, some of which I've seen, like Irizumi, but there's one called with a German name like Ziger Neusen. I forgot how to pronounce it, but that's supposed to be his masterpiece. I have yet to see that. I've seen about 25 of his movies, which of course isn't even a third of them probably, but maybe half. I don't know. But he's incredible. Suzuki's incredible, and there's been a number of releases, and they're getting ready to do a Blu-ray of Tattooed Life, which is a good one that Home Vision did on DVD. I have Tokyo Drifter. He did the year before Branded to Kill. It's almost as famous. It's in color, and it's hyper stylized pop art, kind of very likable hitman character. I can't remember that actor, but he was in a zillion of those movies. So yeah, Branded to Kill. It kind of sort of changed cinema, sort of, but it took a while to get really recognized, and then it kind of like blew up.
Ain't that always the way?
Well, the producer fucked up because he did the things people do is by trying to censor something, you make it more popular. So what is that called? The Streisand effect? No, it's not the Streisand. It's some effect.
Yeah, whatever it is, the money men ruin everything.
Self-back.
Right, exactly. So I have spoken on Branded to Kill. I feel a lot better now. I've got that off my chest. So everybody, please like and subscribe. We're gonna have tons of new content coming, more extreme film symposiums. So for the gore hounds and the shock meisters out there, you'll have something good to feast on with our new guy Mark Baranowski, the marksman. So Chuck, I'm gonna turn it over to you to wrap the evening up with a film.
Wow.
I have faith in you.
You're all I have to go. Sorry, we've got to leave and shortly to go grocery shopping again.
All right.
So I'm going to miss your film, Chuck, but I'm sure it'll be great. Cool. So thanks, guys. It was a fun session.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. You did a great job. I appreciate you.
It'll be in the video.
Darian.
Have a good time.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Take it easy.
So what you got for us to close this evening?
Okay, well, if the first movie I did was kind of like the big fancy entree, then this is a plate full of bubble gum. laced with cyanide.
Nice mix.
And this is yet another Mendez, but it's Mike Mendez with 1996's Killers. And
Great Iron Maiden album, by the way.
Yes, indeed.
Killers. Oh my god,
dude, I am a total Diano mark.
Me too.
Yeah.
I have worn those two albums to death, man. But go ahead.
Love me some Paul Diano. Okay, and Mike Mendez directed this. He also co-wrote it with Dave Larson, who plays what I guess is the lead role. Most of the actors in this I don't know at all. Well, none of them actually.
Might be for the best.
Yeah, but Dave Larson, who plays the character Odessa James.
Oh, cool, man.
What?
Oh, I said cool name.
Oh, okay. I thought you said hold on.
Oh, no. Don't ever hold on for me. Keep going.
David Gunn, who plays Kyle, his brother.
Okay.
And the lead kind of opposition in this is the character of Charles Ryan, played by, he went in the movie under the name of C.T. Miller. I do not believe that was his real name. He did another name. Had a very limited bio, but Heather Drain knows all the arcane deets on this film. He passed away just recently.
Oh, okay.
But she knows all the arcane deets on this movie, and there's a new Blu-ray version of it coming out on, I think it's Synapse. I almost don't want to do that because if I don't have it right,
yeah, you don't want to publicize the company wrong.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway,
Rhiannon, for FYI, so Heather is his wife.
Yes,
cool.
He's a very prominent film journalist.
Yeah, the great Heather Drain, who yes, that. when this comes out, she actually has an essay in it.
Oh my gosh, for this movie? Wow, okay.
Yes.
That's a pretty fateful decision of you then. That makes sense.
Yeah, she fought hard to be a part of that because we're big stands of this movie.
And she has major work she contributed to a movie that is coming on Blu-ray that is playing in my city starting tonight. Caligula the Ultimate Extended.
Oh yeah. It's Caligula the Ultimate Cut, which
I'm gonna play every week, but I'm not gonna go see it. I want to, but it's too.
Yeah, she did the commentary track on that.
That's so awesome.
But and
I love your love. That's nice.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It is.
Yeah. And she has brand new episode of The Projection Booth, which in which she talks about it.
Is that with Mike White?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. But okay. Killers from 1996. Now this is the stars the main two characters in this are Odessa and Kyle James, who are two convicted killers. They are basically kind of proxies for the Menendez brothers.
Okay.
They killed their parents. They greased their parents. Keep
greasing stuff.
We'll keep a theme going with the greasing.
Yeah.
And they
whacked grease.
Yeah, they whacked him. Yeah, just Louis gonna get whacked. He starts acting like Tinky Winky. But let me see.
I had a Tinky Winky. I was big solidarity when everybody was calling him a gay weirdo Teletubby.
Yeah.
Lost him in my move. He was so big and squishy and cute.
Yeah, getting on that gay Teletubby action. But
purple is my favorite color.
So these two guys are in prison on death row, and they bust out, and they're going on a rampage. They're basically killing anyone they run across. And there's kind of a lot of extraneous stuff going in the plot. They've got a U.S. Marshal following them, and she has kind of had some kind of she's got a long background with the case, and she's also kind of got kind of a low-key romantic affiliation with Odessa, and so little unorthodox, a little maybe corrupt,
A
but
little bit, yeah.
but so that's going on. But they decide, okay, they're going to pull a B&E and they're going to go in here and take a family hostage. And so they run in and they take the
Kinda
Ryans.
As you do.
It's like
Ryans.
in cold blood. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, very much so. So they bust in on the Ryan family, who are celebrating Christmas.
There goes
It's
Ryan's
about to be
hope.
Christmas Eve, and there goes Ryan's hope. But this family is Charles, his wife Ray, and they have a teenage daughter and a daughter who's about 10 years old. And there's a little bit of build up to the B&E happening.
When you say B&E, what does that mean?
Breaking and entering.
You know all the slang. I'm
Yeah. Keep me on the tell it to me like a 4-year-old level, because a lot of folks in the audience
you're
might not
like
know
a
the
crime you're like a crime glossary, a living glossary of crime terms.
Yeah, I'm a crime bullshit artist is what I am. But you know, I'm not even a bullshit artist. I'm just a bullshitter.
No.
But
I know.
But anyway, so what you get is you get them sitting around this this apartment or this little suburban home, watching the TV and catching just the video, all the news about the James brothers busting out, which, you know, they watch with rapt fascination. Then the daughter comes home from cheerleading or whatever it is she's doing, and they all say, well, let's hunker down. And at one point, the two daughters, there's the teenage girl and the young, the maybe 10 or 11-year-old girl, and they're sitting up in the older sister's room talking about, oh wow, blah blah blah, the James brothers. And it's like, and they start talking about how, oh, but they're so dreamy. They're so,
Oh God.
Just do you think
talk.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's like, do you think they're as good as like Charles Manson? And it's like, oh, they're better than Charles Manson. And so, okay,
he did have a way with the ladies. I'm not gonna deny that.
Yeah, well,
like it would seem so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Big influences on how I look too. I really admire those guys aesthetically, not their morality. Go ahead, Chuck.
But anyway, so personal bio stuff in this is, I came up as a writer in the 90s on the zine scene.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were on the zine scene or were reading zines back at that time,
mm-hmm.
Of course, one thing that was all the rage was kind of serial killer fan culture.
Oh yeah.
And you know, it's the whole thing. You can buy the serial killer trading cards, et cetera, et cetera. There are whole magazines dedicated to them.
Oh, yeah.
And this is obviously very cued into that, and very much along the same lines as it's kind of it's more well publicized, well hyped Big Brother, Natural Born Killers.
I love that movie so much.
Oh yeah, and this is obviously kind of batting right down the same alley. It has the same exact. It's just the effects of mass media and the hype and everything else. And at one point, they have a commercial, which was obviously maybe cut together as a demo before they made the movie. But it's the two brothers wearing kind of this, the signature makeup that they wore, basically being advertised as action figures. And they're doing action figures for these two murderers who killed their parents.
That would sell like crazy nowadays.
Whoa.
It might. And probably would have bought some, probably would have netted something back then, you know,
Yeah.
on the low key cam on the underground.
Yeah.
But hey Presto, what you doing? But anyway,
why am I thinking about serial killer top trumps? I don't know what it's in my brain.
Serial killer what?
I don't know. Top trumps for with serial killers. Like
Oh.
special powers.
Maybe.
Oh, that's a terrible idea. Sorry.
Too creative for your own
Invented
good.
something that's
No problem.
Sorry.
And just go with it.
Spontaneity.
But anyway, so they take this family hostage. Odessa decides he really likes the wife. And so right away, they've got the husband patriarch tied up, and they've made up his face, and they've tied a dartboard to his chest, and he's sitting there making out with the wife while he throws darts at the guy. And Kyle, the younger brother, is up in the teenage daughter's bedroom having sex with her. And it's kind of like, well, they all fell into that very easily. People start coming around to the house, knocking on the door, eventually getting their brains blown up. They're all like, oh, why isn't Charles out there helping the police? You know, it's all over the neighborhood. And the U.S. Marshal starts kind of gets into contact with this lady's husband, who's out there looking for her. She's dead. It's like, yes, we found I heard a gunshot at their house.
Oh man.
And like, you're kidding me. And what you find basically, it's like, well, let's look up on these folks. And the husband is Vietnam vet, Green Beret, highly decorated, and you just find all this stuff about him. The wife has a rap sheet a mile long and has gone from just, burglary, theft, arson.
So these are the Ryans.
These are the Ryans.
So you're saying these two killers do a home invasion on a family who are themselves criminals, but they didn't know it.
Yes. Well, a highly decorated veteran and a criminal.
Oh, okay.
And you look down her rap sheet, but anyway, somewhere at the point, it elevates from, grand larceny and stuff like that to murder, and just constant murder charges, all of which get acquitted.
Wow.
Or all of which are just thrown out based on justification or whatever. But, it's like murder, double murder, etc. Just all, non-convicted, nothing. And so it's like,
sounds like our system.
What's going on here?
At work.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And maybe, I don't know, but whatever. Basically, what winds up happening is that the James brothers have no idea what they've walked into, because the Ryans, right down to the little girl, are far more violent, far more depraved, and far more dangerous than they've ever been.
Wow.
And they've got and soon the tables turn, and I think a rescue is attempted with a bunch of folks busting in, and then they are all immediately dispensed with by Charles Ryan with an axe, and then dropped into some cavernous basement they have.
For subtlety.
This basement that they refer to as the quote-unquote underworld, which is just full of jail cells and all these kind of shambling figures.
Is it underneath their house?
Yeah.
It's like martyrs.
A dungeon.
Yeah.
Yes, a house complete with a dungeon. And
right.
And then the James brothers end up down there, and then there's one of the people in the dungeon is a character named Bob, who is some kind of severely deformed hermaphrodite or something. But Bob has taken a strong liking to Kyle, the youngest James brother, and
I see.
so there's fun and thrills, and
It's wild.
and at one point they
spicy.
and at one point they have like at one point they have Kyle and Bob sitting on the couch together, and Charles is lecturing him. Now, Bob has taken quite a liking to you, but you're not really reciprocating. What's the problem here? We're going to have
blow
to
off
do
Bob
something about this. Yeah. So anyway, it turned just long story short, just ends up turning into this absolute bloodbath. Just shooting, killing, nonstop attempted interventions that all wind up with either the Jameses and or the Ryans wasting everyone who runs in.
Oh, wow.
And it's just absolute pandemonium and a ton of fun, and just
why do I feel like it's kind of Shakespearean or something?
Yeah, it's great.
It's so strange, because a lot of the characters end up going into these soliloquies where they're talking in like some kind of beat poetry patois about one thing or another. One guy the youngest James brother starts going off on this big rant about how he thinks that credit cards were the destruction of America, which I'm kind of inclined to partially agree with.
It didn't hurt. It didn't help.
No, and but there's just a lot of kind of crazy riffing going on, and but it's just kind of a psycho candy kind of trash roller coaster. And
do you like the way it's shot? This climactic.
Oh, the whole thing is beautiful. It's just the lighting and this, because this is a movie that does not have a huge budget, but it's like small cast, usually small confines in the studio setup or whatever. But I mean, man, it's like a cameraman friend of mine once said, it's just good composition don't cost nothing, and good lighting and
if
good
you have the eye, that's what I call it,
goes a long way. And I just say that your tolerance for this movie is going to depend on whether or not this kind of highly cynical satire kind of content resonates with you or not. And if it doesn't, say if you didn't like Natural Born Killers or stuff like that, this may not really pique your interest. If you are into it, bon appetit.
But you should probably then at least give Man Bites Dog a shot.
Oh yeah.
Another one from that period.
Yes.
It's hilarious. Coming soon to your neighborhood. I think that's what the real name of the movie is in French.
Man Bites Dog, yeah.
No, the actual French title translates as Coming Soon to Your Neighborhood, or Coming Soon to a Home Near You. There's variations.
That's right.
Man or dog or bites in it. That was an American export. But that's an effective one. I like it. Yeah. You haven't seen that, right, Rihanna? That Man Bites Dog is like a documentary.
No, I haven't seen these films, but like visually, the way they look in my mind when I'm visualizing it, what you're saying.
I hope you're not disappointed when you finally see them. We might be hyping these movies up too much.
Oh, with Killers, it doesn't have the absolute level of just media overkill that Natural Born Killers captures. But
he had a massive budget and a very intelligent crew, and with this, like I said, it's got good lighting and good composition. Hey, that goes a long way.
Some very imaginative set decoration.
Oh, that's very cool, man. Well, a lot of crime films and noir films are like that,
Yeah,
like the one I just Branded to Kill. That was a very low budget. I mean, but it's very art. Its artistry is very, captivating. So
shot in a day. That's
it's edited in a day. but it was
edited
shot.
in that day.
It was shot in like 4 or 5 days or something. But yeah, most of the time was putting up the butterflies.
Man,
But we'll see. So
Some
please
days
remember
great.
to like and subscribe.
yeah.
And
Click that button for notifications.
absolutely hit the bell, because YouTube is really bad about notifications and the algorithms are burying us. That's my mantra now. Yeah,
Yeah, but don't say that. Then you're going to attract it for us being buried by the algorithm.
you're right. I need to do a glass half full.
Bring
No,
the good
positivity.
vibes to
We're gonna
us.
conquer the
Yeah.
algorithms, damn it.
Well, you know, I'm a yoga teacher. I have to be like, you know, that's not the truth in my eyes. Is that this is quality content. We've really looked into these movies. We love these movies, and hopefully that love translates into you wanting to go and explore these movies for yourself.
I go, yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So thank you. Have a good night. Take care. Okay.
Toodles.
Yeah, that was another installment in our incredible series on crime films. We hope you enjoy what we're doing. If you do, drop a like on this video, and please subscribe to the channel. We appreciate you watching, and we hope you have a good night. We've got more ahead. Thank you. Take care.
And it's true that we cannot see that far behind. If we looked all the way in the past, we'd go blind. In the night, from the stars as they've all lived their lives, and the light that they gave as they burned and then died.